Hey, my name is Eric at Fleming Traps, and we get questions all the time about how to dye your traps. And today we'd like to give you a short video presentation of a couple different methods. We have the cold dye method over here in our bucket, and then we also have the traditional method with your pot and your fire. The cold dye method is going to take you approximately 1 week to dye your traps, versus your traditional method is going to take you probably about an hour. Now we'd like to show you what you need to do with your traps to get them ready for the dyeing process. When you get your traps out of the box, what you'll do is you'll open up and you'll notice they'll be nice and shiny as these two with a good bit of grease on it. What you want to do at that point, you'll take these traps and you want to get that grease off of them. The purpose of the grease is basically to keep the traps from rusting until you can get them. Once you remove all the grease, you can basically do it with any form of a degreaser. You can either boil it or either you can scrub them, one of the two. After that, what you'll do is you'll take them outside and you'll want to get a good coating of rust, just like these two traps here. These two traps here were placed outside for approximately a week and a half. They didn't get quite as much rust as we wanted on them, so what we did at that point was spray just a little bit of vinegar on them to get a little bit better coat of rust. The reason you want a good coat of rust on your traps basically is whenever you dye them, it gives the dye something to stick to, and you get a much better dye job when you do have that coat of rusting on it versus if you were to do it without. It's just going to take a good bit longer, and your traps won't dye quite as well. If you notice at the bottom of the two traps here, these two traps here already been dyed. You can see the color difference between those and the two right here. We used actually on those two traps the cold dye method. We placed them in the cold dye for approximately about a week, and we got a good dye out of those two traps. The different dyes available are standard logwood trap dye, and then we have over here the logwood crystals. Both of these dyes, basically all you have to do is mix it with 6 gallons of water. In our cold dye method we just use 1 bag, and then in our traditional method with the pot and the fire we use 2, since we had about 12 gallons of water. Both of these packets, each pack will do about 2 to 3 dozen traps with no problem. You also will see here we have our wax available in a 1 pound bar, and we also have it available in a 5 pound block. If you choose to do the cold dye method, all you need to do is get you a bucket of water and put you some trap dye in it. We use the liquid because it dissolved a little bit better with the cold water. At that point, we took our traps, we placed the traps in the dye for approximately about a week to a week and a half, and we'll get a pretty good job. Now I will say this, whenever you do handle any form of traps with dye, I recommend using gloves because it'll get on you and just about can't get it off. What I'll do now is I'm going to take the traps out and show you traps and how we put them in there. What we did was we basically got us a piece of wire. We tied all of our traps together, that way we wouldn't have to get our hands all down in there. As you pull the traps up, you'll notice a pretty good dye job on it. Also too, if you notice these two traps, we have stuck a piece of wood in between there. And what we did was we pried the jaws up and we put the wood in there. That way the dye will get on all parts of the trap, where you're not going to have it where it's shut and it can't get into the sections that are touching. As you pull the traps out, you'll see the dye job that we did, which it was pretty good. Like I said, it was about a week to a week and a half. And what we'll do at this point, after you have them out, basically what I do is I go and I take them on a fence post or somewhere to hang them up and let them get good and dry before we decide to go through and start waxing the traps. Now with the traditional method, what you basically do is you can get you a pot of any kind. You can even use a fry daddy if you like. All you want to do is put a flame on it to get it to a boil. At that point you can use either the logwood trap dye. We have it in crystal form, powder form, or liquid form. Or you can also use just things you have around the house, like leaves. There's all different types of leaves that you can use. You can let them sit and soak in the water. Actually, with this pot right here, it was sitting outside for probably a good year or two, and it had a good bit of oak leaves in it with water, so we actually had a pretty good dye solution already mixed up. But what we're going to do is we're going to put the logwood trap dye solution in it just to make sure. All you basically have to do is just sprinkle it on down in there. Actually, I used 2 of these in here. It calls for 1 package for 6 gallons. So I put 2 in there. I have probably about 12, I'd say 12 to 15 gallons of water in that pot, so we actually used 2. Now that we've mixed our trap dye into our solution, what you'll have to be ready for now is to go ahead and dip your traps. I definitely recommend using gloves, just like I talked to you about it with the cold dye method. You don't want to get this trap dye on you because it's real hard to get off. Also, before I put the traps in, what you'll notice is I put little pieces of wood in between every one of the traps. That's to keep them pried apart where you'll get a good dye job. Also attached a wire to all the traps. That way I can dip them in the solution without having to get something to grab the chains and pull them out. Now what we'll do, we'll go ahead and dip them in. Use plenty of water, that way you can get them fully submerged. At that point I just bend my wire over to the side and leave it there. Now some of the instructions on the logwood trap dye say you can do it for 20 minutes, some of them say up to an hour. Basically what you can do is do it and you can pull your traps out at different intervals, and whenever you get the desired color you want on your traps, you can go ahead and pull them out, and then at that point what you'll do is you'll hang them up and let them get good and dry before you start waxing them. We hope this video gives you a basic understanding on how to dye your traps. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to give us a call or visit us at our online store at flemingtraps.com. Thanks for stopping by.